You should expect a technology partner today to be helping you along your journey. So whether it's like what we're doing here and kind of sharing our perspective, or how you're building the tools within their platforms to be able to move with the pace of change to create those powerful new innovative solutions that empower you and enable you to do your job better, do it faster, but also do it, solve problems in ways you couldn't before.
Welcome to Conversations on Retail and our discussion about a practical plan for CPG and retail leaders to jumpstart AI in their careers and put it to work to drive their business. AI is here, rapidly changing how we work and fueling superpowers for those who successfully adopt it. In this conversation, we'll cut through the hype of AI and explore practical ways for how CPG and retail leaders can embrace the power of AI, putting it to work right now in order to drive business results and improve marketplace execution. I'm excited to welcome my guests who are among those shaping the world of retail intelligence through their AI-powered platform, Kasperbauer, CEO of Storesight, Marc Yount, COO. Gentlemen, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, glad to be here.
Yeah, great. So you're both passionate about the importance of AI adoption for CPG and retail leaders. As we get started, tell us a little bit about Storesight and how AI has become such a central part of your solution.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I think I'd love to cover it through kind of two lenses here. I'll talk about Storesight, but then Marc, I'd love for you to just talk about what AI means for us in our company as well. But, for those, there's probably folks who are very familiar with us, but maybe those who aren't, maybe worth a little bit of historical context. Storesight is a brand that we formed here very recently, but actually has a legacy of 15 years going back in CPG. For those of you who know, the legacy business Field Agent, was really born out of the rise of crowdsourcing and the rise of the iPhone and really solving this kind of big, hairy problem that's kind of been endemic to retail forever, which has been this black box of retail, just not knowing what's truly happening in the store. And so, over the last 15 years, we really created and innovated the data acquisition engine side of this. 3 million shoppers who are connected with us are out there, stores every day. We're collecting millions of photos a year that ultimately are able to power these kind of retail intelligence solutions through store audits. About 4 years ago, the business really started to lean into AI and ML, and this kind of convergence of things, an emerging partnership with a company called Shelfgram, which was via partnership structure, was utilizing the data and photos that we capture to really create a kind of new and novel presentation and engagement around those via just a really simple but powerful software layer. And with that, progressively layering on these new technologies, things like OCR, so optical character recognition, new kind of eye tracking study data, et cetera, to create these kind of new kind of data sets coming off of the images. And so that really kind of set us on this path here that, the last 2 years has really just exploded. And really the punchline there is, this is a very exciting time, unique time. AI has been this massive unlock to solve problems that we couldn't solve before. For us within the product, AI is actually kind of behind the scenes in what we're utilizing to be able to process millions of images to turn, in most basic sense, turn photos into these massive sets of metadata. It's like the picture's worth 1,000 words. It's like worth 1,000,000 data points. And so by doing that, we're actually, again, turning those millions of photos that are out there or being captured throughout the year into data that can be used then for insights about what's truly happening in that black box that's retail. So kind of the net of this is, Storesight, the new brand, the combination of Field Agent and Shelfgram is, a business that's providing this whole new class of retail data. This is image-based, AI-powered, data that's always on. Like we're delivering it to you so that it is continuously available 24 hours a day. It's at incredible scale. They have access to thousands of stores every week, collecting millions every year. And it's, it's ultimately real time. So again, we have those 3 million shoppers out there that are collecting information. We're consuming and processing those images through our engines to be able to deliver you this super easy but powerful experience of being in store at scale.
Matt, as it relates to AI, most of the things Ty just said are not actually brand new, right? Taking pictures, character recognition, frankly, even pulling data off photos isn't new. But I think a lot of like what we'll talk about today, and which everyone listening here already knows, the power behind the scenes has changed.
Sure.
You're either tapping into that power or you're not. The way we tapped into AI is to do these things that the industry's kind of tried to do for years, but couldn't do it at scale, or frankly, false starts, or just couldn't get data accuracy to where it needed to be. It is unlocked now with AI. So again, you're either tapping into it or not. The way we're doing it is through the products that Ty talked about, but it's really the advancement in technology that we're seeing across the world
100%.
that makes this possible. So right place, right time, right?
Yeah, it's so exciting. It's just we couldn't, the industry couldn't do this 2 years ago. And the pace of change and the pace of innovation is awesome. Like we're seeing that just with our own product development on an ongoing basis. We're solving new problems, today that we couldn't solve a week ago because there's some new technology or some discovery that our engineering team has had utilizing and testing and experimenting. So yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Okay. Good product pitch, but I actually think a lot of the places we'll go today are to help this audience, anybody listening, and really ourselves tackle a bit of a bigger question, which is how the heck do I do this personally and inside my company? If all these things are changing, sure, part of the solution needs to be using Storesight. We'll talk about that later for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, we're here for a reason. But I think everybody's also asking the same question, whether it's this AI FOMO, where I'm fear missing out on something, or frankly, I think I'm behind. I think everybody listening can nod a little bit of wondering whether they're tapping in. And so a lot of what we'll talk about today, and I want to just briefly touch on, is how we have been a bit on the early edge or the leading edge of adopting AI in different ways at our company. And because I want us to go there later too and talk about how folks listening to this can think about jump starting their AI journey or
100%.
progressing it. And so luckily, through good leadership and just a good curiosity and our values as a company, we didn't want to just develop an AI product. We wanted to practice what we preach. We wanted to eat our own cooking. And so starting a while ago, we started really pressing into changing the culture and curiosity of our company around AI. You'll hear us later talk about ways we jump-started this through carving out entire days for things like AI hackathons, getting ideas going, giving people resourcing time, really an expectation to move on this stuff, right? We've actually hired a role internally that progresses our AI ideas internally for like operational improvements through to completion. So it's not just this theoretical, my CEO said I'm supposed to have some AI stuff.
Yeah.
It's like I've come up with stuff. Let's get it through the pipe and get it rolled out.
Yeah.
And so we're resourcing that internally to make sure we actually do it, right? So that's cool. We've just seen some champions internally just grab and embrace it too in ways of, I'm not a developer, but the tools let me act like one now. We'll talk about that a little bit later too. So when you ask about AI, yes, the product we have is very AI enabled and enhanced, but we're trying to also run a company that's AI first internally too.
Sure.
100%.
Yeah. So the topic of AI is obviously front and center in the business world right now, and there are a range of views on the topic. Let's talk a little bit about the why of AI. Why do you feel like it's so important to prioritize AI adoption?
Yeah. It's a great topic, and it's one I think. Yeah, I imagine a lot of the folks, that are listening are probably asking themselves. So everybody's here. You're hearing that you must, right? There's this kind of top-down mandate and just this a lot of noise around, this kind of do or perish type of approach to it. And the reality is it's not always easy to get started.
Yeah.
And I always think about it as, have you heard of FUD? Fear, uncertainty, and doubt. I think there's probably a lot of that, within the folks that are listening here around. Like, again, I know I'm supposed to do this. They're telling me, but I don't know why, and I don't know how to get started. But to me, the why, and for us, for Mark and I have been, leaning into this for a while now. The big why from my perspective is that, we've witnessed that the potential and promise of AI is very real. Again, it's not, it's not necessarily always an easy button or an easy path there. but we've seen enough to prove that like this seems believing. We'll talk about some examples of folks in our team who've just latched on and created these like incredibly game-changing solutions for parts of the business because they just took a step forward on it. But I think we're also seeing too, and I imagine this is the experience of a lot of the folks listening, is that, it's, this kind of AI, kind of the impact of AI is not being distributed equally right now. We certainly see there's a MIT study out recently that showed kind of the difference by even just functions. Certain areas, sales and marketing kind of outpacing finance in terms of just actual impact on the business. And so I think that's happening on the individual basis as well. Kind of further with this, as they think about, this potential and promise, what the promise is actually the gift of resource. And I think, so we think about AI, a lot of times it's kind of easy to get kind of lost in the clouds on it, but like, what do we really care about and what do we want of it? And I think I look at it as, and particularly as a business leader, is, this has been this massive gift of resource. It's like, for an individual, and let's definitely talk about it today from the perspective of the individual. This is an opportunity to actually build a team around you, right? I mean, AI can, in most simple forms, can also perform functions for you, right? It can be your admin, it can be an analyst for you. It can be a designer. It can be an editor. It can be your coach, right? If you're able to harness these things and put, harness the technologies to put them into play for the things that you need there. But as I mentioned before, I think because we're so early right now, it's not a total easy button.
Yeah.
In some cases there are. We'll talk about where those and where you can get help to find those easy buttons. But the reality is it takes some work. You actually have to learn the coding app. You need to get in and really experiment with prompts, or you need to, we'll talk about you need to kind of step back and look at your business and what am I actually trying to solve? So I think, all that being said, like this opportunity has been laid out there. It also comes down to competition for your professional career, is that if you're not doing, someone is going to do it.
Yeah.
And it is going to create this big separation because, if someone can take command of these AI technologies and give themselves the power of a team of 5 or 500, and you're trying to do that compete as an individual, it's just not a level playing field anymore. So
yeah, let's lean into that for a second, because I kind of want to feed the fear and uncertainty and doubt let's feed the FUD for just a second. I appreciate Ty's positive leverage on kind of, you've got to use it to resource yourself. And it's true. Like, you don't need to ask for a resource on your team anymore. You need to lean into the resources available with AI, right? But let's stick with the FUD for a second and feed it.
Bad cop.
Yeah, I mean, why not? I'll feed my own good and bad cop too, because I believe in both. But probably heard the phrase, AI won't take your job, but someone who knows how to use it well will. Yeah. I heard that first a year ago, and I was like, oh, that might be true. And today it's very true, right? And it's very true in the sense of not this existential crisis for your job, but more about how you're thinking about the resourcing Ty's talking about, right? So I remember being at a leadership conference about 10 years ago, and there was this question on the table that's supposed to get you really thinking. And it's, if the rock star of your industry came in and took your job, what would they do different? Okay, makes everybody think, right? And you sit there and you become super insecure for a second, and you think about all the things you don't do or the skills you don't have. And the answer used to be some level of do things more simplistic, or maybe they would, maybe that they would have a different work ethic or a different focus. Maybe they would not be maybe so caught up in the things that take your daily time. So there was all these good answers as to what like a rock star, superhuman, took the pill, limitless person would do, right? I think the answer today would be they would come in and that rock star would tap into the resourcing available with this tooling that's out there. Call it AI or not, there are resources out there that amplify and magnify our time. So simply put, that rock star would come in and they would leverage AI to maximize their output, and it would show. And so the encouragement here for anyone listening and ourselves is, are we taking the time to figure out what it means to lean into this tooling, leverage it to maximize our output? Because there will be those folks that have grown up like my kids, where it's native to them,
right,
Yeah.
and they've been leveraging it for a while. It will be second nature. We've got to make it second nature for ourselves sooner versus later.
Yeah. But you have to form the habit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it takes work.
Yeah. And you've got to carve out the time. And we'll talk about that as part of the model later, but you've got to carve out the time.
So given AI's widespread impact, how do we wrap our minds around all the noise and find a way to move forward?
Yeah. I am always a fan of keeping it simple. Right? Again, this is easy to get spun up. It's very easy to kind of look at AI and I see people engage with it when it's, they come at it from it's a solution looking for a problem.
Yeah.
I like to step back and keeping it simple. Like, Mark and I talk a lot about it, like just fundamentally, what do we need it to do, or what can it do for us? And I like to think about it and, to begin with in just kind of two simple frames. So there's, AI as a means to kind of being more efficient or optimization. Can I do more better?
Yeah.
Things.
No, this is probably where most people are on the continuum, right? Most people have gotten into some of these efficiency measures.
Faster, better, stronger.
Better searching.
Yeah.
Yep.
Google replacement. GPT prompting. Meeting note takers. It's a big one.
Yeah.
They announce themselves in every meeting now. We get the summary afterwards, and they're super helpful, right? Even probably to the point of these research agents that are out there. I mean, Gemini's version is deep research. All of them have some version of, whoa, I can go really deep on a topic with a little bit of time and get an amazing output.
Sure.
There's used to take months or weeks of research.
Yeah.
So I think this is where most people probably are on the continuum, are leaning into these efficiency tools.
Yeah.
In fun ways too, right? Everybody has the person in their group text that is now, it's all about AI generated images, where it used to be GIFs, it used to be emojis before that, right? And so these are the things that when people think AI, I think they go straight to, there's this consumer facing stuff now that's easy to access and it makes me more efficient.
Yeah, kind of the everyday AI stuff. So I think and there's a ton of value there. I think there's a lot, as we lean into it, there's a lot of low hanging fruit for us individually as functions. And then, Mark and I like to talk about it as again, this is the prospect and promise of what could be, and thinking about it from the lens of innovation, doing, like with Storesight, AI enabled us to unlock this new data asset that you couldn't get to before, data from images. But what is being a little more kind of, future focused with your business and what you do? What are you not doing today that you could do tomorrow? What problem is out there that just you haven't been able to solve that maybe these technologies enable us to do? So I think about it as the bucket of innovation and breakthrough to really kind of find the new ways to solve problems we couldn't solve before.
Yeah. I mean, the innovation side truly means I'm unlocking something with this technology that I could not do before.
Yeah.
Like, not I just do it faster or I made myself 20% more efficient, but I actually couldn't do this before, right? It's where AI is trying to point toward, general intelligence or super intelligence. And along that continuum, it's basically unlocking things that couldn't be done in multiple industries. Certainly not just, white collar retail professionals by any means, but we've got to zone in on our industry right now and be like, what are we unlocking? And of course, that's where our product comes in. Our whole point was to say, what you could do before is you could travel to a market or a store down the road and do a store walk and see what's going on at the shelf. What you could not do? You could not look at 200 stores in the matter of 5 minutes and extract all the data you need to make decisions off of that. You could not do that. You had limitations of physics and time and space and the world that keeps you from doing that. But we've unlocked innovation. Well, how do you unlock innovation in your role for your retail partner, for your boss, for your team? Are you thinking about it as ways, not just to be a little bit more efficient, but actually using it to unlock things you couldn't do before?
Sure. So you've talked about those two major areas of focus. Talk a little bit more about the framework you've used with your own team and your journey to develop and bring AI-powered solutions to market.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, this gets to the heart of it. And again, I kind of so many conversations, so many folks about this, and so many folks who are just kind of stuck, right? Mark and I have spent a lot of time kind of honing this as a way we think is just a really practical way to get going. And the reality is doesn't actually start technical. When it comes down to it, we spend a lot of just time. I mean, you hear us talk about the culture of our business, and we work to be very thoughtful around that. I think there's this culture for yourself, and this kind of, it's almost like a spiritual thing in my mind in terms of how you first approach. So just getting going, the first thing is to set the mindset. It's a personal choice. Like this is important. I'm going to plow into it. We'll talk about the space you need. Like you actually have to build kind of a habit here. And so you've got to find and dedicate the time. I like to think about kind of work. I always think of visualize kind of my stuff as swim lanes. I've got the swim lane of kind of this initiative, or the swim lane of kind of this function. You need to create a swim lane for yourself around developing your kind of AI first actions. And with that, commit around, the notions of curiosity, and action orientation. Curious and then act on it. And give yourself the grace along the way too. I think the other thing is, a lot of us maybe have tendencies towards perfection. This is a journey, and particularly given how early we are, it's going to be a lot of iteration with this. And so it's not a perfect journey. It's not every experimentation or every experiment's going to work out perfectly, but it's actually going to be very, contribute a ton to what you do next.
Yeah.
So
I mentioned this earlier. Sorry to
No, please. Yeah.
I mentioned this hackathon idea.
Yeah.
It's a provocative term. So maybe I take 2 seconds just to describe, because I actually think it's very applicable for anybody that has a team or peers.
Yeah, we talk about it. It's a very kind of, for a technology company,
sure.
Old as time, but it's, maybe explain the concept.
Yeah, and AI hackathon, a little bit different than just a bunch of developers in a room trying to code new ideas, but the same concept. And it was that AI hackathon should be for everyone. And it was just to go along with this idea that Ty just talked about, that our mentality, that our culture has to be on the adoption side of this curve, not on just the worried or FUD side of the curve, right? Like we have to be on the leaning in on the adoption side. So look, a while ago we said, how do we spur this on? And we said, we just need to get everybody exposed, maybe demystify this a little bit. But you can't do that in an organization without creating some time and some space.
Right.
So just for everyone to know what we did, in case you want to try it out, we gave everyone a day, and we came together as a full team. You can do that in whatever capacity you have control over in your organization. But we came together as a full team for a day, really more like 5 or 6 hours. We launched the day with the idea that we're going to break you up into small teams, and you're going to find ways to use publicly accessible AI tooling out there. By the way, you can use AI to ask it what AI tools you should go use.
Sure. Yeah.
And try to solve a problem. As a matter of fact, the problem doesn't even have to have anything to do with our business or your function. What we loved seeing is everyone came back with things that had to do with their function or our business.
Yeah.
But that wasn't the point. The point was your mindset. Well, guess what? People came back and were floored with what they were able to accomplish in a 3-hour work session and present it back to the team. The videos they were able to create, the problems they were able to solve, the apps they were able to code as non-technical people in the matter of hours. And it just completely unlocked this curiosity and this culture that we've been able to draft off of.
100%. Yeah. Exposure to all these tools, the notion of thinking about problems, which is really the next one here in this first stage. We go from, again, setting the mindset before we even start talking about AI. I think this is probably one of the most critical things is, AI is there to help you solve problems that are relevant for you. And so, what we found with the group and the way that we just approach our business overall is start by what is it that truly matters to us? What are we trying to solve? What is the fundamental problem or opportunity? And then come around to say, okay, well, how do I think AI maybe enable me to be better at this, or to have a breakthrough in innovation there? So, and this is where AI can't replace you. Like this is what we saw with the hackathon is the nuance of your individual role, what you contend with every day. You're the only one that's close enough to that to see where these opportunities are. And there's a lot of big, just pretty significant wins that can be done around things that your boss may not even know you do every day.
Yeah.
Right. And so I think that just going through that mental process around, how I work, what's important, where are the opportunities, where are the problems, getting those outlined and then prioritizing, then pick one. Don't pick 10, pick one and cue that up to now into this next phase, which is, all right, getting prepared now to find a solution leveraging AI. So that third piece is all about getting your data house in order. And this is really critical. This is, I think about it as kind of data hygiene, data organization, but ultimately, whether it's, internal data, maybe outside kind of third-party research, whatever those things that are going to be relevant, the power of AI, or one of the big powers of AI is the ability to kind of synthesize and create connections between things that we can as humans do if you were to read this whole thing and analyze that report, but can do it like ridiculously fast to be able to provide insights. And so the hygiene around getting those data sources in a place that are easily referenceable and where you've got command of them is kind of a foundational step.
Yeah, I would actually say most of the people listening to this work for a company that started some trend of aggregating or warehousing their data centralized 10 years ago. Some Snowflake instance, some data warehouse, some SAP system that they've put some BI tool like Power BI or Tableau. We're probably getting some nods on the other side of the mic right now. Sure. So the idea of organizing data so it's more accessible and from multiple sources is not new. What is one
speed and scale?
It's about integrations and not being isolated and in these data silos. I think the retail industry has actually done a really good job of this. There's actually folks in our area and across the country that have focused on aggregating data so that you can mine into whatever you need. I will tell you 100% that data aggregation is not optimized for AI. Okay, so mark my words, you can do analytics off of that, but you are missing out on the data set. So think about it for a second. When you prompt AI, don't think ChatGPT that's just prompting like the world's data right now. Think when you're trying to build a bespoke prompt or ability to get to some type of data set or app or insight or research on your business, what you are prompting toward, that data set matters as much as anything. As a matter of fact, I would say it matters a lot more than your prompt. People talk a lot about the prompting needing to be great. I actually don't see that. I see language models being so good at inferring what you meant, even though you suck at asking it or spelling it the right way. Like it absolutely does a great job. It's like, I know what you mean here, Mark. Okay, yeah, you did. Well, great job, right? But what's it looking at to give me the answer? So when I get into things like I want to know the health of a certain customer base of mine, it can go in and look at user activity and good data that I've had dashboards for a decade. But if I don't have my AI transcript of the last 10 calls that I had uploaded in the same data set, if I don't have market information about that company uploaded into that data set, if I don't have access to other CRM notes that I happen to take on that customer, all those things are amazing. In the past, they would have meant nothing because we weren't able to do anything with that unstructured data. Now it's gold for AI because it can prompt and go, sure, the user activity for that customer looks good, Mark, but the last 3 calls sounds like they were kind of mad at you guys. That matters. That should take my health score down. It should throw up a yellow flag. So that's a good example. But the point being, what are you prompting toward? Are you just prompting toward your old data sets or just some massive worldwide data set? Or are you trying to bring other data together so that when you dig into it, you're getting great answers because it's able to do that?
Yeah. So, cannot emphasize that point enough. That is, and I think this is a place where we'll learn. I think you'll learn. It's like, oh gosh, okay, I didn't think that I should upload all of my previous, buyer meeting decks. But that's actually rich data in there that has context relative to future orders. Like there's, like it's kind of an infinite world with that. But I think
I'd start by making a folder, guys. Like make a folder wherever your drive is. Throw in decks and transcripts from every call. Find a way to start throwing that data somewhere, even if it's not the perfect data set. There are AI tools that can go grab that folder, look at it all and figure out a good answer for you. But don't get behind on organizing your data, or you'll just relying on some centralized data BI function at your company who's just organizing a lot of ones and zeros and structured data sets. You've got to be bringing in a lot of this other data into one place for you and your team.
So as you get there again, so setting the framework, picking the right problems, organizing your data. Now we can get in and start talking about really the AI tool enablement. And so, look, I think we're all super familiar with the everyday. I call it everyday AI. There's probably other people that's a pretty common term. But everyday AI, which a lot of, often are the GPTs and stuff that we're used to. A lot of our customers, will probably have Copilot at their Microsoft house, Copilot loaded on there. Very powerful. Like, this was important. The second class, and this is what we've had, just has been a big breakthrough for us with our teams, has been the explosion of this tier of the vibe coding tools, which is, look, we know the adage over the last like 30, 40 years, what software is eating the world. Well, software up until this point required that you go through and have scope it and have engineers develop it and all the things that have created these technology companies. Vibe coding is unlocking the ability to code yourself, and creating actual, pieces of software, programs, apps. It's extraordinary. And it's one of those things, we will look back in 5 years and we'll be blown away by how we used to develop software. But that's an area that is rich to explore and place for you to go and take a look for opportunities to integrate into your solution set. And then the third tier, important is, again, there's folks like us, every software company out there right now, if they're a software company you should be working with, they are plowing into AI. And in particular, as the specialness here is these purpose-built tools that are leveraging AI, like us, where it's, it is a solution for us. We're CPG focused, very much kind of ingrained in this industry, and we're building, AI-powered tools that are specific to the industry and to your needs. And so look across all of your vendor sets there. Like, that should be a place for you to really get a lot of leverage from an AI standpoint.
I want to latch on to the second one for a second.
Yeah.
So the vibe coding idea, and I want to stay there explicitly because I do think it represents kind of a bucket of scary space that is mysterious still, probably for most folks listening. Maybe not, but let me say it again: vibe coding. So if you're not familiar, that's okay, but go look it up now so you do know what it is, right? Because it is a thing, and it's the concept is exactly what you would think, is that I can kind of just chat like I would with a GPT or a chatbot, but it's actually coding a web page or an app or some piece of technology as I chat and tell it what I want.
Yeah, software building software.
It's building software, and most developers and engineers are way into this with tools from folks like Anthropic and other companies out there that have created these embedded ways to code more efficiently. It's not just helping developers code more efficiently anymore. As a matter of fact, it's helping people who aren't developers figure out ways to create things. It's that innovation space that we talked about.
And they all have free versions. Like, this is you've got to be curious. It goes back to that around just the kind of plowing into your curiosity.
We've used tools like Firebase Studio, Lovable. I don't get royalties for any of these, so just go look up vibe coding apps, but they all have some free space to just go play. We have directors and employees on our team who have built these bespoke tool sets for their teams in a matter of hours that cut their workload on certain tasks in half, like things around aggregated data review, forecasting is one of the tools that we've used, customer feedback analysis, like things that used to have a process or a procedure that took X time. And some curious person post us getting the mindset change at the company going, I'll play with this with no technical background. And in a matter of hours, we've got directors and members of our team rolling out things for their teams or their peers that are cutting time in half on tasks because of things like vibe coding. It's also just kind of fun.
Yeah.
It's fun to see a tool come to life. I'm jealous of engineers sometimes because they can do their ones and zeros and end up with something beautiful on a web page. Everyone can actually do that now. It's very cool. So you should lean into this idea of vibe coding and play with it. I think you'll actually be less than 5 minutes in before you think, I already know a way I could use this for myself, for my team and my work.
Again, it comes back to that picking the problem, like, hey, and being very specific. Hey, I want to cut my, my quarterly deck creation time by 50%. How can this app and this data set help me do that? Like, and look, I think not to go too far back into the FUD, But look, this stuff, see again, your kids are probably coding apps right now. Like there's a whole generation that is AI first on this. Again, in 5 years, that these technologies are going to be so powerful that if you're not in them now and staying on pace, this is like, you're going to have non-engineer folks that are able to code very powerful applications that solve problems for them. It's going to create that separation. So now is the time to lean in. And again, don't worry about being perfect. Don't worry about it always being a win. Like the part of this is the journey and learning the motions of how to experiment with these.
So committed, curious, and imaginative wins.
Yeah, not okay. So trends happen across generations all the time, technology trends. And as old as time, the older generations will say that's a younger generation thing. We'll let them do that. They can have horrible grammar on text and use emojis, and we're not doing that because we write emails like this. Great. That's actually probably a decent stance to hold as a older gentleman. I agree with these things, but this stuff is not. There should be no generational acceptance or not with these things. So you hear vibe coding, and I can just imagine certain people in certain generations sitting here going, I don't need to code anything. And it's more, again, it comes back to the mindset, or that'll be a generation that comes up that actually has power over that skill set. It is so accessible now. There's no fear. It's like convincing your kid that thing's not going to be as scary as they think. And afterwards, they're always like, that wasn't bad. I kind of liked it, right? Maybe other than the dentist or something for my daughter. Everything else has always kind of been like, you were right. That wasn't that bad. This is one of those areas. Leaning into these tools is an area that is not scary once you've done it, because the folks that are building these things are harnessing the same kind of power we are at Storesight. It's just all accomplishable now. There's no mystery. You don't need a wizard hat. It's just there.
Yep. And so, 100%. And look, and I think we've gone through those stages here. The last stage, rinse and repeat. Look, I think this stuff is moving so fast. You may have run an experiment to try to solve a problem this week that you come back to in a month, and the technology has moved such that it did it. Like I talked to a lot of our customers about where they are, and there's still very early, even with some of the more advanced companies that are investing heavily in the tooling and stuff. But look, I know a lot of our customers and the folks listening here have like a heavy analytical component to their job. We're seeing the advancements around the, AI technology's ability to process data sets. And sometimes they're getting kind of confused around kind of weird column headings and stuff like that. Again, you may go through all this. It doesn't work today. A month from now, they may have solved it, and they probably will. So don't stop, come back to those problems, but kind of keep your feet moving on this one, right? Just keep.
You have to. So a couple examples, it literally is changing and getting better all the time. So really practical examples. I think analytics is one of those. Early on, trying to just bucket data or actually do basic calculations. AI is a lot more about trying to kind of infer intent originally with these language models than it is to actually be, a calculated data set. But that's getting better. The tools that now actually can be mathematical with AI are much stronger than they used to be. One that I've just seen really practical too, actually, presentation deck creation. We all need, there's probably no one listening to this that doesn't have to put some kind of brief or presentation together. Sure, it'd be nice to just prompt something and it access some data and create. That used to be really bad. Like it didn't create good decks. It wasn't on brand. The themes were off. It couldn't access the data you needed it to. That's getting much better. It's one to keep leaning into. I'd call it halfway down the continuum at this point. It's probably a 5 out of 10. Video creation. I built an entire hype video for a customer of ours the other day in 12 minutes.
Wow.
And it used to take days. And you know what the big missing piece was? It was actually less about the images or the flow of the slides. It was the voiceover. AI voiceovers used to be really bad. They said names wrong. Guess what? They contextually say words right. Colloquial words, it gets right. The tone sounds native. The language is actually being trained off of a real person's voice. But guess what? When I got the script wrong, and I needed to redo a voiceover that I used to have to send to somebody and get done the next day, I just retype the word and the voiceover happens in a minute and it updates it. So those little things are just, to Ty's point, don't give up on something that's a 3 or a 5 out of a 10 right now with AI, because it's probably a 6 or a 7 in a month.
Sure.
Maybe less than that.
Sure.
Yeah.
So you guys have a bonus tip you wanted to share.
Yeah, 100%. So look, again, some folks are like, man, I'm already in this. I'm totally figured it out, whatever. The big bonus tip from my perspective is really comes to that third tier of AI solutions. When kind of looking at your vendors and your partners, software partners, lean in there. Whether it's us or anybody else, like, you should expect a technology partner today to be helping you along your journey. So whether it's like what we're doing here and kind of sharing our perspective, or how you're building the tools within their platforms to be able to move with the pace of change, to create those powerful new innovative solutions that empower you and enable you to do your job better, do it faster, but also do it, solve problems in ways that you couldn't before. So I highly recommend that you have high expectations of your software partners in that regard.
Yeah.
I totally agree. I mean, you're probably seeing it. People roll out a button that looks like a star or something that's turned purple all of a sudden. First of all, don't skip clicking those things. We're so used to closing pop-ups. I found myself with most of our internal softwares avoiding those. Yeah. Did you know we can do this with AI now? I actually find myself playing with those and being like, I should absolutely do that now. And so to Ty's point, you should expect that the things you pay for from a software and tech standpoint are bringing these things to bear inside of their tools as well. If they're not, you should find somebody that is. It's certainly what we're trying to do, what we're bringing to market.
Yeah, that is, again, there's not a lot of easy buttons out there. That should be an easy button.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So let's bring this back to the world we live in, retail CPG. Talk about how you're seeing CPG organizations leveraging AI to strengthen their operations and grow their business. And Ty, share a little bit about Storesight's capabilities and some of the use cases that might help our listeners understand what's happening in the real world.
Yeah. I'm excited. I mean, Mark's just going to share some, Mark leads our customer team. And so front lines of all this, will share some just kind of what we see and kind of how the exciting use cases are playing out. But look, hey, we kind of talked about already a little bit about kind of who we are as a business. I mean, so Storesight is, we're here to solve that retail black box problem. Mm-hmm. Like, we know that, in the industry today, we've typically had great data from the standpoint of what ships out of the warehouses towards the retailer. We have, in some cases, pretty good data around the POS. We, through the power of AI and, utilizing this library of millions of images and our constant flow of images, are creating the data set to tell you what's happening in store. And it's about the stuff that matters, to give you visibility at scale all the time, in real time, to be able to understand what's going on, competitive entrants or competitive movements, promotions, displays, display compliance, on-shelf availability. What's your share of shelf? How's that changing? So all those dimensions that actually go in and actually drive those POS outcomes, being brought forward and put in your hands through the power of this really, just simple, but, really honestly fun application.
Yeah, it's really cool. I mean, we talked about it at the beginning, but I mean, just to boil it all back down really quick on how AI applies, taking millions of photos and gathering data points across retail because we happen to control this crowdsource engine that we've been doing for 15 years is amazing. That's great. AI's unlock of that is what we're doing with Storesight, putting it on top of all of that data. So it's an easier layer, or what they call in the AI world, wrapper, on top of all of that great photos and data, right? So we're trying to just hand our customers a good example of using AI to unlock something, that innovation we talked about. Because guess what? Data around what was actually someone's share of shelf or in stock at the shelf that you used to just assume was your in stocks based upon other data sets, or what displays actually look like and what brands are actually there, but at scale, was not possible. It is now. And that's what we're trying to do. I think, I think examples are always a way to bring some of this stuff to life. Luckily, this is a really cool space, and we literally get customer examples every day. My bigger challenge is like keeping up with the marketing team's request back to me to say, have somebody record that or video that next time. That's an amazing example, right? Yeah, it happened last night. I'm like, okay. I was just trying to share some good news. We'll ask the customer later. But my point being, examples are where it's at. One of the examples I was thinking about, actually, It's probably one of the more basic ones, but it's one of those unlocks we talked about. So when I talked about you can now walk 200 stores in 5 minutes instead of one store in an hour, whatever the math is on that, it's unlocked. That's a lot more efficient and it helps you travel across the world and over time to see what's going on. The fresh department, some folks listening to this might play in that space around the store, right? Not center of store, but around the store in some of this fresh area, especially in produce. I've been shocked over the last 2 years how many produce companies are customers of ours. I shouldn't be, because now I know why, right? Like we have an example of a produce company who literally they have multiple employees that were regularly traveling around the country because their visibility into what was actually happening in that fresh kind of fruits and vegetable space, because it changes all the time. Store managers have so much discretion over this kind of perishable space to make it best for their store and their experience, that there was no awareness of how they could go back to the centralized buyer on what was actually going on and what might be good. So they were spending so much money just traveling around to see things. When we showed them Storesight, it was this just immediate wide-eyed, we've got to have that. We could immediately stop traveling tomorrow, see 100 times more locations, save money. And guess what? At the end of it, they were actually able to go back to their centralized buyer or merchant with examples of where pricing had gotten screwed up and they were losing margin in dollars on apples.
Yeah.
And they were able to go back and show where displays were in the wrong spot. So they weren't adjacent to the products they needed to be. And they got real change at the store in that produce area. And that's a great example of unlocking this visibility that resulted in real money and real orders. But all it really did is keep them from needing to go travel the country all the time to see what was going on.
Yeah, I mean the efficiency and just gave them operational scale, which is just, again, you were limited by where you could walk into, and now you've got multiplicity. Do another movie reference there. So
yeah, it's a good one. Okay, can I share another example real quick? I've actually got a couple. Let me make this next one really quick, even though I think it's cool, and I think a lot of people actually on the call will relate to this one. We have a lot of customers, especially enterprise brands, larger brands that have been challenged for years, to solve things that are these perfect store. I'm going to put that in air quotes right now. People might know what that means, or maybe it's a growth revenue management team that's been challenged to understand this data set we've been talking about, like what's actually going on at the shelf. It's like this final frontier of, do we know our share of shelf? Do we really know what's in stock or out of stock? Do we know actually what's adjacent to the other product? And the answer is kind of no. We think we know what the planogram's supposed to be, and we know the 2 stores that we visited. And so, for share of shelf specifically, let's focus on that one. So share of shelf is a metric I think a lot of folks listening will know. However, I would argue there's probably one of 2 ways folks had been solving share of shelf, AKA how much is my brand, what share of space on the shelf does my brand have for this planogram or modular in the Walmart world, right? So how much share does my brand have, and how does that compare to my share of sales? That's really important, right, to understand indexing. Well, guess what people did in the past? They either paid for really expensive studies to sample a few stores a couple times a year and call that their truth and baseline, which is a horrible method, but it's something. Or they didn't have the money for that, and they went out themselves and kind of clipboarded and took pictures and went back and made a JDA file in their space planning software to say, this is our share of shelf. That's all that's been able to do. Well, the unlock of AI, one of our customers, the reason we've broken through and are going to and have a really solid relationship with this customer is because we've solved this problem for them. This problem they've been trying to solve of share of shelf, because we've done some really cool work with available AI to unlock pictures of thousands of shelf on any given day, and then calculating the share of space per brand dynamically, or to filter down to just the stores you care about, or just the retailers you care about, or just the brands, or just the planograms you care about. Recalculate, set your baselines. It's unheard of in the industry, but that's how we're unlocking this data set. So that's another great example. Someone who's trying to solve this almost has been impossible problem of these perfect store metrics like adjacencies and share of shelf. We can do that now. Pretty cool. Last example, I think, is very innovation focused as well. Really cool story, really practical. We have a customer in the personal care space who basically, through other data sets and a few store visits, had a hypothesis that I think we got out of stock problems. Guess what the data said? That they didn't have out of stock problems. This is common. People listen to this that are data geeks will be like, it's a phantom inventory problem, or some algorithm, or the retailer system isn't calculating backroom inventory properly, or it's been plugged at the shelf. There's all these things that could have been in the past, but they were all guesses, right? They're all guesses. Phantom inventory is one of those. So finally, I mean, they kind of were like, wait a minute, we have access to Storesight. We should just look at our data of what's actually the holes recognized through Storesight, and just being able to scroll through several planograms in a row. They realized immediately it wasn't just a guess. They absolutely had an inventory problem where the locations were saying they had inventory in the back, but the shelves were very much empty for their products. They were losing sales. So they were able to get enough of a data set and work with their retailer team and their merchant and their buyer to generate an order, multiple orders, to fix the problem and systemically fix the phantom inventory issue in the system, which resulted in hundreds of thousands of dollars in orders just by finding the problem. In the past, they would have gone in with a hypothesis and the retailer would have said maybe, and instead you're going in with proof and data that didn't exist in the past and getting real orders and real business out of it.
Yeah. And the source of truth.
Yeah. So just these things that weren't possible before, whether we're talking about Storesight or whether we're talking about any of these other tools, they are possible now. Those are some examples of 100 that we have of where people are figuring out how to unlock this stuff.
Yeah. And creating new motions and new ways to engage with their buyers, engage with, solving the problems of their roles and their functions. And so making breakthroughs. So yeah, we're kind of excited about it.
It's a fun space to be in.
Great stuff. Henry Hill always talks about bringing a gift.
Bringing a gift.
And you guys have brought a gift with you today, to help our listeners and support them in their AI journey. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, we obviously, hopefully you can hear from us here. Like, we're pretty passionate about this stuff and beyond just what we're doing, but just the adoption of AI and that prospect and promise that we talked about. So we, through our professional services group, want to be helpful where we can. And so, one of the things that we had talked about were these AI hackathons, which, we have seen to be just these incredibly powerful jumpstart tools for organizations to get over the hump and kind of get the teams, again, comfortable and exposed and educated on a way to start really revolutionizing AI usage for themselves. And so we, through the team, will provide free AI hackathon facilitation for folks out there in the CPG space. Just reach out to us. If you go to storesight.com, there's a contact us page. Just reach out, put in your name, give us a little kind of background on yourself, what you're looking for, and we'll reach out to you and coordinate this. Again, it's a incredibly fun, exciting. It's a great team building exercise, but it's a jumpstart into AI. And again, expect folks like us to be helpful to you in this journey. We want to be helpful. It's an exciting time to be in business.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The one thing I would say too is if folks are still with us at this point in the podcast and they don't know about the hackathon idea, whether they're going to do that or not, that's fine. I do want to have one just simple encouragement for sure. Keep in mind, guys, everybody is stressed and busy. And our jobs, your jobs, are perfectly designed to actually give you zero margin in your calendar. Or you've figured out how to fill that margin with something at this point that helps you with your job. If you do nothing else out of this time, schedule an hour right now next week that says, play with AI, prompt something, consider one of the steps we talked about, find a task or a process or a problem you want to attack and just go research it. Use AI to research it, but block the hour, block 2 hours the next week. You've got to get in a rhythm. I did not start doing this until I started controlling the thing that controls me, which is my calendar, right? And so go grab an hour, block it off. Trust me, it won't be something that your boss is upset that you're doing, because the pressure within organizations to understand this stuff, yet in most it maybe has not been enabled or resourced yet completely. It should be a good thing for you to go block off time and be the one bringing these innovations and efficiencies to
Your leadership desperately wants you to be bringing this to the table.
Yeah.
100%.
They need it too, absolutely. So go make the time to do it, and you'll be surprised. Or send us a note. We're happy to facilitate some time for you.
Yep.
Yeah.
100%.
Guys, you've given us a lot to think about. Thank you so much for making the time for this conversation. And for anyone wanting to dig deeper, I would encourage you to reach out to Ty and Marc directly, or any member of the team at Storesight by visiting storesight.com. Make sure you check out the recommended resources that we've included in the description, and we'll see you again next time.